Hello and welcome to another edition of Luminar Coffee Break. I'm your host, Vanelli. Now, our topic today is how to edit photos or understanding the raw format in photos. So we're going to use the light tool, which is our raw processor. And what I want to do is take you through everything so you can understand what the raw processor does. And I'm also going to show you some of the best practices that I personally like to follow. All right? So let's just dive right in. Hello. Yes, Wolfgang, it's me, Vanelli, not Angela. Hello, everyone. Glad to see all of you from all over the world. Great to have you here. All right, so here we have this beautiful image. Now, I'm going to dive in right away to the edit module or the edit panel and go right to the light tool. All right? Typically, I would use a template, but for now, let me just show you how I would do this here. So if I were using just a light tool on a portrait, I want to come over and the white balance, I want to set it. So if I click on the eyedropper tool, I'm going to come over here, and if I don't have what's called a gray card, like when I'm photographing, typically I'd have a card up like this, it's a gray card, and I would use that to dictate or to determine neutral gray. Since I don't have one, I'm going to use the eyedropper tool right here on the white of her eye. Look at the change already. Before and after. Now, that's just a guesstimate. I'm going to come back over and I'm going to warm it up just a little bit. There we go. So what that eyedropper tool did for me really was adjust the tint. So that was the big part. I find that there's a tendency on all processors, when I process it, it has a tendency to go to a cooler color, and that's fine. I just take the temperature and slide it up. Now we have that set. I'm going to come down here to the black and white tool, or black and white sliders, and I'm going to enrich the blacks just a little bit and bump up the whites. Let's enhance some of the shadows right about here. And then let's check out some of the highlights. I want to dial them back a bit. There we are. All right. So again, before, after, it's taking shape. It's contrast. So in this tool, Smart Contrast is one of the settings that's actually borderline AI. So Smart Contrast, out of everything we just did here, takes on the characteristics of Smart Contrast, of AI. So that means if I take this image and I create a template, which we'll do, Smart Contrast will look at the image and determine what it feels based on our settings would be the best choice for that particular image. Now we have all this set. One thing I want to come over here is this camera profile. Now, what's really cool about Luminar, you don't have to go in a set order. So everything I'm showing you right here, please don't write it down in a set order and go, I have to follow these exact steps. It's what you feel you don't want to look at the most. So let's say this image were really, really dark. I may increase either the exposure or bring out the shadows because it's kind of like driving me crazy. So I want to fix that part first. Here, I want to come over and I'm going to select the camera profile for this image. So if you notice, it says Luminar Default, or here's Adobe Standard. Look at that. That came out pretty good. I actually like the Adobe Standard. And in doing the Adobe Standard, notice this particular image was shot with a Canon camera. So I love how this looks. So I'm going to come down here and set this as a default for all the images that were shot using this Canon camera. They're all going to use this particular profile and the white balance here. All right? So I have that set. Here's before. Here's after. All right. I think you could use a little more contrast. There we go. Now, I just developed the image, and how long was that? 3 minutes? So it took 3 minutes to quickly enhance this image with my camera raw. What I could do is come down here, and to save time, select save. Now I come over to my templates, and under my templates, the one I just created is here. Let's rename it. Let's call this camera raw. All right, so I call that my camera raw starting point. And I'm set. Now, I can come back again, make additional changes. Let's say, bring the blacks a little bit more. And notice I'm not messing with any of the other tools right now. I'm just strictly dealing with the camera raw. Now, I'm going to come down here to curves. Shoot me a message. Hey, RL, I'll answer that question in just a minute. So, with curves, I hardly ever touch curves, mainly because you make one slight adjustment off. It's like you take a paper clip and you make it straight, and then I tell you to put it back as a paper clip. It's not going to look the same. So curves is phenomenal. If you want to take the time, look at this. You want to take the time and adjust the image globally, like that looks good. And traditionally, you want an S curve. So let's say I click here. They gave me another point. I just want to bring the S up just a little. Another one. I can bring it back here. But you see what happens? So whenever this happens, I have a tendency of totally screwing it up. So if I just double click on those points, it puts it back to normal again. All right? So I'm going to come over here and bring it down just a little bit. Right there. There we are. Look. Before, after. I love the shot. Now, in fact, I'm going to come down here and just save it again. All right? So I have it set. Now, at this point, if I were to add another template to this, it'll wipe out everything we just created, which makes sense because we're using the values of that template. So I showed you how the light tool enhances this image. Now, what we're going to do is this. I'm going to come back over to history, back to the original. Now watch this. If I come up here to enhance AI, so accent AI, look at this. I adjust one slider. That one slider automatically improved color, detail, tone, depth of an image. So you know what we could do? I'm going to go off script a little bit. I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to show you a real quick way, because we don't have virtual copies in the program. So I'm going to show you a way what I would do to duplicate this. I'm going to show it in Explorer. And here it is. Right click. I want to make a copy of this image. And I'm going to paste it. There. So now, I just pasted it. And we know it's a copy because we called it a copy CR2. All right? There. And now, I'm going to go back here. And what I'm showing right now are all my favorites. So what I'm going to need to do is show all photos. Here's the image that we were working on. And we know it because it's this image here. Let's see where the copy one will be. Let's give it a second. We may have to go out and then come back in again. Give it a second. to refresh. I'm going to go back to my favorites. Yep, here it is. And then I'm going to come back again. There we go. All right. So there's the copy. See what I just did there? So I created a copy of that image. All right. So here's the image. Let's give it a second to refresh. So this was the raw file we were working on. And you saw what we did. We went in and just did one adjustment using the Enhanced AI slider. All right? So I'm going to show you a comparison. So look how beautiful that looks. Now that same image, I'm going to make it my favorite. And I'm doing that by pressing the letter P for pick or select. So we know it's the copy. Down here, do you see it? So that's the copy of the image. So they're identical. The only difference with this one is let's apply that template we created, which was right here. All right? That's good. And now let's review just these two. Good, so we have these two lined up. Give it a second to redraw. And by the way, I'm still working on that Windows problem. Windows, for any of you that have Windows, Windows did a huge update. And when it did something to our graphics. I don't know what it did to it. Windows is aware of it, or Microsoft is aware of it, and they're going to try to send out a patch. But you're going to notice it's going to run a little bit slower. All right, so this was the shot we did, spending about 5 to 6 minutes in Camera Raw, and then we created a template to make it quicker. This, give it time to refresh, is going to be just that one slider. Just adjusting the Accent AI slider. Boom, look at that. So what am I getting at? Camera Raw is phenomenal. And you should use it, in my opinion, or how I would actually do this. Here we are with the image. What I would do is I'd come over to the templates, and this will be real world editing. So I showed you what the tool does, but this is how I would actually use it. Let's say essentials, and let's do flawless. Give it a second. And let me jump over to edit. It's almost there. You'll notice this right here. When that stops illuminating, then we know that the changes have been processed. There we go. Before, after. So I started with a template just to see where I'm at. Then I had to come over here, add a little bit more. You zoom out just a little bit. Then I'd come over to the light tool. Instead of messing with all of these here, I'd probably come over here to make sure that the camera profile was selected correctly, which it is. Good, just double checking. And then, once I do this, I like to enrich the blacks just a little bit. And right there is the processing. Look at that. And then, because it's a portrait, let's come down here to face. Relight it a little bit, but definitely, look at the eyes are already enhanced. So that the setting that I selected, the template, already did all this for me. So I'm set. I'm good there. And that keeps changing on me. So let's go back up here to the light tool just to make sure. Give it just a little more, make it a little bit more warmer. And in a moment, it's going to be popping in. And there it is. So it's almost there. There it is. All right. So what I'm getting at is I showed you what the light tool does. And I don't want to discourage you from using the light tool, but traditionally, in the fact, because we're dealing with AI, is we want to try Accent AI first. let that develop the image for you. And then if you don't like the results, if you're like, okay, this looks good, let me come back down again and jump into the light tool, make a few adjustments there. Now I'm set. I love how everything looks. Come down here and I can save the image. So before, after, and again, with just a few simple sliders, we're able to do that. All right? Now, let me jump into the questions. Hello. Sorry. Yes, Wolfgang, it's me. Let's see. All right, good. RL is asking, will Luminar 4 ever be available for an iPad? Interestingly, at first, I would have said no. But then I'm hearing some of the chatter in our groups on Skylum, and the engineers are entertaining the thought about iPads. I doubt it'll be Luminar 4 because of the layers. If anything, it'll be Luminar AI. But again, that's not official. That's just chatter that I'm hearing. Hamen said, normally I'm taking the shot as natural on an icon. Oh, yep, the natural profile. Yes, that is good. So inside inside your camera Nikon, when you're selecting your profiles, what he's doing is he's selecting natural for the profile. When you come back into Luminar, you can actually select that as shot and then select the profile to be natural, and it's as if it came right out of the camera looking like that. Good. Russell's talking about that's why it doesn't update the windows. I didn't mean to update my windows. It did it automatically for me. And on the Mac, sorry about that. And on the Mac, I still didn't update yet to the new operating system because it's working fine the way it is. So I'm going to leave it until I get the okay from Angela, who loves dealing with Mac. Angela gives me the okay, I'll jump aboard on that. All right? Well, guys, hey, thank you so much for joining me today. And as always, if you have questions, please leave them in the comments and we'll do our best to answer them. You're welcome to join us over on Insiders, insiders.skylum.com. Insiders at skylum.com. In fact, let me pull this up real quick, just so you guys can see it. And I'll share my screen in just one moment. There we go. All right, here we are. Good, so here we are with the Insider at skylum.com. In fact, let me do that for you here. So insiders.skylum.com, that's where we're at. And what's really cool about this is it's a group. Well, just think that you're going to be with a whole group similar to Facebook, but with like-minded people. And if you have questions about which camera should I buy, how do I edit my images, or how do I edit my portraits inside Luminar, these are your peers that you can ask questions to, and then they're extremely excited to give you the answers. And if you look here at the events, you'll see that we have the different events coming up. Right now it's the coffee breaks. Past events, we've had fireside chats right here, deep dive in the Luminar, and so on. There's so many different groups you could join. Oh, we got a new France group. That's awesome. Underwater photography. I hang out usually in the portrait section, the portrait group here. We have a German group now. And if you have suggestions for groups, like at 1 o'clock, we usually do our coffee breaks at 1 p.m. The difference between these and them is the coffee breaks are on Zoom, so it's a meeting and we're interactive one-on-one to where you can actually, you don't have to raise your hand, you just stop and interrupt and say, hey, I don't understand that. Or like Hamed, if you had questions, you would just say, hey, can I ask a quick question? Boom. And then we do it more like interactive on there. So those are for those events there. And other topics, there's a whole wealth of information from tutorials to our coffee breaks here to webinars and so on. And if I come to the beginning, where was it here? I saw this. Here we go. And you can download a bunch of free stuff. Like, I'm going to favor this. And I'm going to favor this one here. So Rich Harrington went out of his way to create these sepia tone LUTs, torn edges, and you can download some of these analog LUTs, light leaks. Best part, it's all free. So because you're a member of Luminar AI, you can take advantage of this and come over here and join in. Now, yes, I do have quite a bit of messages I have to reply to. So if you need to get a hold of me, the best way is vanelli@skylum.com. And that's the easiest and quickest way to get a hold of me. All right? Well, guys, again, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you at the next coffee break.